Pastor Dan has been speaking to us about emotions and how they impact relationships. And today we're addressing the theme of stress and thinking that that's a pretty universal, or pretty relevant theme, given that we're all universally being exposed and under a lot of stress, especially during COVID and lockdown and what the last 18 months has represented for us. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Karine, and I'm on staff here at Woodside. And to my left, if you don't know this person, this is Amanda Lewis, and Amanda has been attending Woodside for a number of years, along with her husband, Darren, and their two children, Samantha and Abigail. And she's also been on staff and helps with youth, and I'm adding up all these things that she does, and I feel like there's this cup of stress, and we're just adding these things. She's a wife. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a student. Lockdown has happened, and you've come through all of that. Those are things that we know about Amanda. One thing we maybe don't know is that 4 years ago she suffered a concussion and is still living with the effects of that, and how that has impacted her life is also been stressful. So just in general, though, Amanda, I wanted to ask you, what is stress like for you? What's your relationship to stress?
I would say I actually really enjoy stress. I have a calendar, and I like it to look full with little check boxes that I have to do in the week. And I add lots to it. Like, I find things to add to the list, much to my husband's dismay. But the problem is I have the list, and I have it all balanced, and then one thing will set it off, and I'll drop it all. And that's a negative side of the stress, right? It can be a motivator, but sometimes it's not.
It's positive when it's a motivator, but then all of a sudden negative. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are some of the contexts that you notice stress?
So for me, lockdown was actually a lot of fun. And I say that knowing that people really struggled, and that we had less struggle in our house. I've always said that concussion has always had me in lockdown, and this time I just had friends with me. And we painted and played guitar, and it was great. But every time the lockdown ended, we would come back to church, we would come back to youth, and all of those things with the lights and the people increased my concussion symptoms, and it costs me every time. So I'll go to youth on Friday, and 2 days later I'll be down with a migraine, which is then on Sunday, which I push through, and it just adds up.
So when do you become aware that stress is actually increasing, and how do you experience that? What happens?
My husband usually notices first, because I chew my fingers, and I can't see them with the concussion anymore, so I really chew them. And then usually, like, if a migraine hits, I'll end up in the basement. Yeah. So, and then sometimes I feel broken when the concussion stuff hits. And I would actually say sometimes, like, I'm broken, I'm disabled. And a youth corrected me and was like, no, you're actually just under repair right now.
You were telling me a while ago about, like, flipping words, like you mix words up and you don't even necessarily know that that's happened.
Yeah. Often, or I'll completely forget. I forget my kids' birthdays, like, all the time.
Yeah, and you can't hide that when it happens, right? You're at the doctor's office, and it's just...
Yeah, you look like a horrible mom, because It's like, I don't know what month they were born in.
Right. The exposure is hard, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how has your injury impacted your relationships? Thinking your relationships with your family, with God?
I would say with my husband especially, it's made our relationship better. If somebody said to me, like, you need to spend more time with your husband, I'd be like, well, I can't fit it in. But now, right before dinner, we usually sit down for like 20 minutes and just chat about our day. I would say with my friends too, like, now I'm more honest, and they help me. If the migraines hit and I'm dizzy and I'm in the basement, it's okay that I'm struggling, but eventually I'll say, like, don't let me stay there. And my husband, and often Karen too, Karen, my friend, will like do a rescue mission and be like, we've got to get her out of the basement. It's been too long. And I'm glad they don't let me sit there.
Because the injury, it was traumatic, right? And it really dramatically impacted the quality of your life, even your career choice, and the nature of your relationships. I think one of the big parts of this story and sharing this story is that it's not over. This doesn't come wrapped in a pretty package, right? You were saying before, right?
Yeah, the testimonies with the little bow on the end, where everything's all better, and I relied on God, and now I'm cured. It doesn't work that way, for me at least.
But there's been negative and positive.
There has been. I would say even with my kids, the empathy that they've developed has been amazing. My daughter's in grade 9 and she still holds my hand at the mall because she knows I'll walk into something otherwise. But I love the relationships that it's built. And I would say, I remember when I didn't have God in my life. I came to faith in my 30s. And so I always feel him now, and I know what it's like to not have him, and I'm so grateful I do.
Yeah, it's like it's possible now because God's in it with you.
Exactly.
In each of you and between.
Even in the basement.
Even in the basement, yep.
Yeah.
Can I pray for you?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, Lord Jesus, I thank you so much for Amanda's willingness today that you have met her in this place, even in the basement, and that you're walking with her through these last 4 years, and we know you will continue to walk with her. Lord, I know that today will have cost her energy and exposure to people and light and sound. Lord, I pray that you would ease that burden and be gracious to her in the next couple of days and assure her of your presence. And Lord, for all of us, could we all be more aware of what it is that we carry with us in our lives and sensitive to others, especially these situations where people don't wear their brokenness on the outside, but they have them. We carry it with us. Lord, could we be more sensitive to ourselves and to each other? And Lord, that when we meet each other, that we could shine your light to them, be Jesus to each other, but also see Jesus in each other.